What's up, Steeples? Bright Lights is at our doorstep, and therefore we have decided to make some decks around these spoilers, some non-mechanologist decks that you can take into the Bright Lights meta season. Let's get into it. We'll first go over spoilers and then we'll go over the deck techs in between. Alright, our first non-mechanologist spoiler is from Savage Land News. This is a brute attack action smashing performance. A yellow pitch 3 cost 6 attack card that does not block and breeds if you once you attack with this card, you draw a card and discard a card. If the discarded card is 6 or more, you get to destroy an item on the arena at random. So of course we are doing the random. That is the brute keyword kind of at this point. We have another brute card that is able to destroy items. We're given Arc Smash, but there's even other cards like Smash a Good Time, which is a generic, and now here again, Smashing Performance. Basically, if it has the word smash on it, you should be holding your items tightly because they're probably going to get destroyed here soon. This card is definitely a sideboard card for this upcoming mechanologist meta. We probably will see either the new Dash or the Tekla Vossen, or maybe both, be a prominent figure within the meta, so this might be a needed card for Brute to stay afloat. I didn't think that this was a big enough card to make a whole deck around, so no deck tech here. If you're a Brute player and you want to find room in your sideboard for this, it's not too hard. Alright, moving on. Tome of Imperial Flame. This was given to us by Blackwing Studio. This is the studio connected with Mara Ferris. This is a Draconic action. A red pitch, cost 0, non-attack action that has you draw a card, except if you're a royal, you get to draw 2 cards, and then you must then pitch 2 cards, because if you do not, you will then just banish your hand. You do get to keep the resources that you pitch into. Those resources are still there for you to use, but you must do that, otherwise your hand's going to get banished. So what does this mean? What are we thinking here? Dromai. Dromai is probably, out of the 2 CC Draconic heroes, is probably the one that could run this, but I don't even know if you'd want to. I can see Bigger Dragon Dromai running this, just because when you pitch 2 reds and you have 2 resources floating, you can then activate Flamescale Furnace and get your 3rd resource for free. So it's almost like you get, an extra free resource there. And that's pretty good. If you have big dragons, that's something you can use those extra resources for. However, if you're more of a battle mage, aggressive Dromai, you generally don't need 3 floating resources. Maybe 1 and 2 at the max. You're really not looking to spend more than 2 resources in a given turn. I don't know if it's really needed. It's good filtering. It's good allowing you to kind of decide which of the cards you drew that you want to pitch and which ones you want to play. So that part's kind of nice. You do have to be royal though in order to get the full effect. Now, before we get off this card, there is one hero that is greatly benefiting on this card, and that is the Emperor. We already did an Emperor deck tech. You can see that here. And this card is so damn good for the Emperor, it almost feels like it should be a specialization for him. Because as you know, the Emperor is royal. That means he doesn't need to wear that crown. That means he will draw 2 cards off of this card. And on top of that, he has all the reds in the world, because that's all he can have, to pitch in, and then using the Flamescale Furnace to create 3 resources. Now, why would he want 3 resources? Because of his ability. You can pay 3 resources to go and grab Command and Conquer and attack with it. That is awesome, because it was so hard to really effectively use that ability. But now you can totally do it with just a 1-card hand. Block 3 cards, use the tome, and then boom! You get 2 resources in the pitch zone, convert that to 3, Command and Conquer, here we come. Your tome becomes Command and Conquer. That's why we like this card. And we do have an Emperor deck for you to check out. I highly recommend playing it once Kano's rotated. That's his only really terrible matchup. You can get past that, you'll be okay. Our next card is given to us by Mitch Leslie, and this is a legendary for Bolton nonetheless. This is Warband of Bologna, a legendary head piece of equipment that has temper and blocks for 2, which means it can block for 2 and then block for 1, then it's done. It also has the ability to pay 2, and then next time you attack, you can charge your soul. If it's a yellow card, you can draw a card and then it has go again. So it's like an action that you can do and then attack, and you can even double charge and still draw a card. So where does this go? What type of Boltyn deck plays this? And I honestly think it's every type of Boltyn deck, whether you're going for the combo sabers or the Beaming Blade yellow pitch or the Raiden just generally good Boltyn. I think these are all going to be playing this Warband of Bologna, if not for the ability, at least the block. However, I don't think this card is a distinguishable enough card to really come out with a deck tech for, so I haven't. As well as I don't really think this card is enough to get Boltyn into that competitive range, unfortunately. So where I do think this is taking the right steps to get there, I think we're still a little bit away from seeing a competitive Boltyn here soon. Our next card comes from Red Zone Rogue, and this is another legendary equipment, but this one's for Assassin. This is an Assassin arm piece called Shriek Razors. It blocks for 1. It has your classic Assassin ability where it is battle worn, and once it's in the grave, you can pay 2 silver to bring it back at the start of your turn. And its ability that you can activate is an attack reaction. You pay 2 and target attack action card that is blocking an assassin card gets -1 defense. So this is an attack reaction on a stick. Basically there for you to play whenever you so choose and you have the resources for it. This card I'm very excited for, but I want to get to another card before we start getting into it. So let's talk about that. Our next card is an assassin card just as well, given to us from the Plague Hive. It is called Already Dead. It is a red pitch, 2 costing, 6 attack, 3 block. Those are Uzuri stat lines, but it also has the ability Contract, which is more traditionally an Arakni stat card. First off, its Contract is non-action cards, and it reads, when it hits, you banish top card of their deck, as well as a card that it was defending this combat chain link. And so therefore, if it hits and they're defending with a defense reaction, you can banish that defense reaction. It will still have its block already, so it doesn't take any away from the block, but it does give you a silver token, which is really good. That's a really great way to do it, especially because oftentimes people play defense reactions against assassins. The other big thing that this can take is equipment. Equipment isn't an action card, right? So therefore, if your opponent blocks up an equipment on your isolate, you switch this in, you can take away that equipment, which can be very good if it has additional block value or additional text. Something like a Grasping Arknight that can still do more stuff. If you're taking that away, you just took their rune chant ability away. So that's really, really good. We really like to see that. Glad that Assassin gets a little extra tool in their toolbox. And I think this goes with both Uzuri and Arakni. Alright, with both these Assassin cards, we did make a deck around both of them, playing both in the main board, and it is not Uzuri, it is instead Arakni. The reason why I chose not to play Uzuri is because I actually think Uzuri would instead like to play Flick Knives over Shriek Razors. As of now, at least, I think that's the case. I think Arakni can really put use to Shriek Razors a lot more effectively, as well as playing Already Dead, since it has Contract. So let's get into that. So the idea with this Arakni deck is you're going to block with your armor, use it almost immediately, and continually get it back. This deck's all about creating as much silver as possible and fulfilling your contracts, hopefully getting in multiple attacks a turn with the Black Tech Whispers, and then maybe even creating a few more silver with cards like Payday. All while disrupting the top card of their deck, as well as, kind of banishing more cards and just being disrupted with cards like Surgical Extraction, Already Dead. You got a lot of sort of disruption. But you also have your classical attack reactions. You have your shreds to decrease their defense, but in Arakni, because of Contract, you get cut to the chase, which is a great free pump to add to your Contract cards, which means you're Already Dead can be a 9 power attack. So this is all the cards that can really work to not only ensure that you have damage getting through and you're creating silver tokens, but you're making the most out of them by bringing back your equipment to have continual block throughout the game. And that's the idea. So This deck is hopefully has some potential to be a little bit competitive. Not right now with Lexi being the way she is, but maybe once she LLs or gets a little nerfed with a ban, maybe then Arakni has a chance, especially if it's going to be a mechanologist heavy meta, then you can bring in cards that can target that a little bit easier. So that's our Arakni deck tech that comes out of these two assassin cards. Let's get into the other cards. Our next card was given to us by Eric Longquist, and this is Wax Off, the long-awaited sequel to Wax On. Now, Wax Off is a blue pitch 0-cost defense reaction that blocks for 2, but it says if you play Wax On this turn, you create a Zen State token. Now let's talk about Wax On and the Zen State token. So Wax On is a defense reaction that gets a little bit better if it's blocking a card that costs 0. Now, a Zen State token is kind of Ninja's own frailty token, except it reduces all damage by 1. It's not just weapons, not just from cards from Arsenal, but all damage, including arcane damage. So any damage coming at you is reduced by 1. That's what Zen State token can do, and that's why it's so big, and it stays around for a couple turns. This pairing is great if you're a more defensive style, which leads into the deck tech. Because yes, of course, we made Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles was an old Ninja style deck that was a Katsu build. You would come in with your Kodachis, and then you would block with cards like Flick Flack, Sink Below, Fateful Scene, maybe even Springboard Somersault. But now you have these two defense reactions, Wax On and Wax Off, that works very well together with each other, that you can bring in to be even more defensive and keep with that game plan. Except there's one big change. All right, back then this was an old style deck. You might not even have heard of it because this was kind of early on in the metas. But now there is another ninja, and that's Fi. And Fi, I actually believe, does this a little bit better because he gets access to Flame Scale Furnace, and that's additional blocks. You weren't really doing combo stuff with Katsu, with the Ninja Turtle Katsu in the first place, so why even like have that ability if you can just have additional block of Flame Scale Furnace with Fi to really get things going? The idea with the deck is you are going to pitch a blue card, Kodachi, and then a 0 for 4 or 1 for 5 attack. And the reason why you want to end with that attack is because you are still rocking Mask of Momentum. Therefore, if that attack is not blocked and it hits, then you will draw a card and you can keep attacking from there on. Or if it's a defense reaction, it's a great arsenal card to have to use next turn. So this is the idea of Ninja Turtles. This is really what you really want to do, especially coming in with a 4 or 5 attack card on your third attack, because then they have to block with 2 cards, and therefore they only have 2 cards to come back at you with, and that's the whole style. That is why Ninja Turtles can work, and I particularly like it with Fi. So Wax On, Wax Off allows for more versatility into aggro type decks. So that's why we decided to make this deck tech over it. Let's get into the other cards. Our next card is given to us by DMR Mana. This is a Riptide specialization called Intoxicating Shot. A blue pitch 0-cost 4 attack arrow that blocks for 3. That also reads, once it hits a hero, that hero creates a Courage token and a Quicken token. Now, a 0-cost 4 attack arrow that pitches blue is above stat line. But then you have this effect that gives your opponent some additional tokens. Now, this card is on surface level not good, but then when you think about what that does by giving a Courage token and a Quicken token, it activates a ton of Riptide traps. This card activates so many traps with those 2 tokens that you're giving them. You're going to be activating cards like Frailty Trap, Inertia Trap, Boulder Trap, Collapsing Trap, even more, like there's more out there. That's why you're okay with giving them a Courage and a Quicken token, because it allows for you to trap them even harder. Now, another thing to think about is that this card is kind of a really good UPF card, because you can hit a hero and then they aren't really enticed to attack you, because now your traps are going to be activated and they know it. Instead, they can attack another person, and they actually, get buffed from the attack from the courage, and they can attack twice. So it kind of works out that you push your opponent to attack your other opponents, so you are staying safe all the meanwhile. So that's kind of the idea behind the Riptide card as far as UPF goes. As far as like CC and Blitz, I don't think this card is going to be helping Riptide enough out. I think as long as Iyslander is a competitive deck in the format, then Riptide's going to struggle quite a bit. So once Iyslander's LL, we'll get back into Riptide, we'll try him out. But until then, this is a fun UPF card that is a little tricky and a little sneaky. So I kind of like it. Let's get to our next card. All right, our next card given to us by Josh Lau from the Card Guys. This is Emboldened Blade. This is a warrior action. That is a blue pitch, cost 0, blocks for 3, and the ability reads, turn a face down card in an opponent's arsenal face up. If it's a defense reaction, you destroy it and your next attack gets +1. Go again. This card is a warrior card, but it feels to me kind of like a brute card. And the reason is because when it hits, it hits. I mean, destroying a sink below in the arsenal feels so good when you're Dorinthia. It's going to just really be, game turners, right? Because, they put it in the arsenal for a reason. They thought, oh, I'll need this later. And then when your opponent doesn't have that later, you're feeling so good. However, when it misses, it really misses. I mean, basically what you're doing is you're paying 0 to just look at their card in the arsenal, which maybe that's okay, but when it compares to other blue cards that could have done a little bit more for you, that might have been the case. That might have been the card to play instead, right? So I am not super thrilled into this card. I'm sure Dory Mains will tell me this is one of the better cards printed, but I just don't think it's enough. I do think it adds another element where you are playing your opponent more than you're playing your opponent's hero. I do think that's pretty good for Dorinthia, but as far as just getting just extreme value from this card, I don't see it. Sorry. Let's move on to the next card. Next card I'm actually super excited for as an Iyslander main. This was given to us by Majin Bay. This is Contest the Minefield, a wizard action that's an aura. It is a blue pitch, cost 2, defense for 2, and reads all heroes get -1 intelligence. That's pretty damn big. We've never had a card that has give negative intelligence. On top of that, it reads at the start of your turn, destroy this card, which means this card is perfect for playing on your opponent's turn. And the reason is because you draw cards at the end of your turn. That means your opponent will draw 1 less intelligence, so probably just drawing 3 cards at the end of their turn. Then it goes your turn and the card is destroyed, so it never actually affects you. This is so good for wizards, and particularly Iyslander, because Iyslander can play this card intentionally from the arsenal, where Kano you kind of have to play it from top of deck and you might not know it's there, sort of deal. Iyslander has a better chance of intentionally playing this card and disrupting your opponent. Now, I don't know how big of a card this is to make a huge difference. Obviously, Iyslander really didn't need a ton of help as is, but I will take it, especially versus Lexi. I'm thinking about right now switching out Brothers in Arms and putting in 2 of these contested minefields, trying them out, see how it feels. We'll just go from there. But as far as the deck tech video, just look at my mini Iyslander deck tech videos, and like I said, 2 Brothers in Arms out, 2 contested minefields in. That's what we have for that card. Let's get into our last one. Our last card is another specialization. This one's a Viserai specialization. He seems to be getting some specializations every set now, and that is Sonata Phantasmia. This was given to us by Team Covenant, and this is a blue pitch XX for the cost. Runeblade action that blocks for 3, and it reads, create X rune chant token. If X is 6 or greater, target hero discards 3 random cards. This is good. Like it almost feels like it's amazing, but when you think about having to pay XX into a card and having it be 6 or more, means you have to spend a total of 12 resources. Meaning this isn't just a 4-card hand, has to be a 5-card hand. So Sonata has to come from the arsenal, or you have to have some E-pots or something. But if you can get it all out there, you will make them discard 3 cards at random, and that can be really big. However, this card is not bad. You don't have to make 6 rune chants. You can just make any sort of rune chants, right? It's however many you can pay for, and that's okay. Now, the first initial thought is with LL format coming out where you can play with Bloodchief Skeleton, yeah, this card makes total sense in that. You can play Bloodchief Skeleton in UPF as well, so any format you can play Bloodchief Skeleton, yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer to play this card. But as far as for CC, you know, as playing a traditional Viscerai deck, not going to really probably be playing this card. If you are playing an OTK Viscerai deck, however, yes, you will be playing this card. And as we have done so many times before with this OTK Viscerai, of course I've updated our list, and of course we are going to have this deck tech once again, because this is another great addition to that deck, another great rune chant maker. Sure, maybe we can't make 6 rune chants, but if we can make 2, 3 off of that, hey, that's pretty damn good. I will take those numbers. This is a great turn 0 card for that, maybe even turn 1. I don't know, but this card creates rune chants, and that's exactly what we're trying to do with that deck, is to create as many rune chants as possible with Runeblade Incantation, Read the Rune, Blessing of a Cold. These are all great rune chant makers. We're looking to make as many as possible, as well as using our Scepter, our new weapon that doesn't actually attack, but instead deals arcane damage and creates rune chants on top of that. That's the other piece of equipment that we're looking to use in order to just get rune chant crazy, because the idea is you make about 30 or so rune chants and then you swing that knife blade, coming in hot and just dealing an atrocious amount of damage. Or you have the Lumen Doom route and kind of just create a lot of rune chants, Lumen Doom, and do it all over again. So OTK Viscerai, a very fun deck, a deck where you just look to play a lot of D-Reacts and just kind of wait until you make those rune chants and then boom, one big one-turn kill. And that is the deck tech of Viscerai. And that is also all these spoilers that are non-mechanologist spoilers. Try out these decks, they're a lot of fun. They're possibly a bit competitive. We'll have to see. I'm not quite sure yet, but they're at least a lot of fun. Until next time, guys, keep on fatting.